And we are recording with my buddy Dr. Stephen Hatfill on Sunday, October 22nd, 2023 at 2:13 p.m. Eastern Time. If you guys go into the description, you can find the link to Dr. Hatfill's book, 3 Seconds Till Midnight. And I do believe you have a new book coming out, but I don't know when, so I'm not going to make any promises to anybody. When is it coming out?
Oh, we're hoping November.
November. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
And could you, Dr. Hatfill, for everyone listening who maybe doesn't know who you are, could you please introduce yourself?
Well, I'm like nobody.
All right. Fuck me. Fuck me. Fuck me
You
for
just
trying.
you
I
just
don't know
phoned
who
me.
this guy is. He's a homeless guy. He's
You just
impersonating.
phoned me
He,
up and said I'm
yeah,
a
yeah. No,
I'm
I found
a
his phone number and said, "Will you stand? Are you an escort? Will you come do a podcast and pretend you're a doctor?" And he said, "Sure thing." No, he's
uh,
Dr. Hatfill. You were in Trump's, I believe, in his pandemic response committee, right? You worked in the White House and you've done research all of your career.
yeah. I in 20 all of 2020 I was called into the White House to the executive office where I worked with Peter Navarro to try to bring some rationality and sanity to what the White House task force had turned into a nightmare of a response that had no chance of ever working. 3 years later, we can see it didn't work at all. All the things they tried, the lockdowns, useless. At the most, maybe it reduced deaths by 1%. We're not even sure of that. Masking, useless, did nothing. Social distancing. Altogether, the masking and social distancing might have done a bit. It had in 1918 during the influenza pandemic, but you have to start it early. Once you get past a certain level of infections, it's not going to make any difference. There's just too much virus out there. So, I mean, that's a reasonable thing to do. And that was to buy us time and a short lockdown, no more than 2 weeks. That was to buy us time to find an effective antiviral drug. That is the plan. And a drug that is safe enough that you can use it in outpatients, i.e., you don't have to be in the hospital to use it. Okay? A drug that's safe enough, your doctor can just write you a prescription after a phone interview. Okay? And not worry about check on you. The doctor that knows you, that you're assigned like for his general practice,
Yeah.
family practice. So we had a drug. The people upstairs came down and gave me a piece of paper that said that the Chinese were buying millions. I mean, they were manufacturing tons of a drug called chloroquine. So that's an antiviral. So the wonders of modern computers, it takes you about 5 minutes to pull up every paper on chloroquine off of PubMed, the National Library of Medicine. And there's the CDC itself, researchers, the old graybeards, right? Back in like 2005. And they had found in tissue culture that it just blocks the replication of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, the COVID-19 virus, we'll call it. It blocks it. Well, holy cow, if you can block replication early while you're an outpatient before you're sick enough, you have to get breathless and come to hospital. Well, dude, you've just solved the pandemic problem. This is going to be a bad flu season. Yeah. But with any pandemic, there's always two major factors: the organism itself that's causing the pandemic and the social response to it. And in this case, we had seriously a perfect treatment. 3 years on, the overwhelming evidence, because people kept using it. 1 in 20 Americans still used it throughout the pandemic successfully.
Yeah.
Which shows you the level of trust in our federal health authorities. So the FDA originally started bad mouthing hydroxychloroquine. And Pete Navarro had managed to get 62 million doses. I don't know if he stole it. I don't know what he did, but suddenly he had 62 million doses. He and Bob Cadlick at Asper worked together, and they were in the national stockpile ready. They were going out to the pharmacies, Cardinal, McKinson. There's like 3 or 4 companies that deliver pharmaceuticals out to your local pharmacies. And they were already surging it. Doctors were writing prescriptions in New York. This stuff was working. There was no signs of any, and these were early, within the first 7 days of feeling symptoms. That's when any drug has any infection, it's when it has its maximum effect. You get a paper cut, oh, no, I'm not going to do anything. It gets infected. No, I'm not going to do anything. And then eventually we're cutting your hand off.
Yeah.
Because it's gone gangrenous, right? So the earlier you treat any infectious disease, the better it's going to be, the more effective the drug work. Once you end up in hospital with COVID and you're short of breath, which brings them in, your lungs are already involved. And if it keeps going, you've got about 4 days once you start shortness of breath. And then you're going to migrate into like sepsis, which, depending on the organism, can have a 70% mortality rate.
Yeah.
Okay. Once you go on that ventilator, this is not a good idea, because that makes things worse. So the idea was to surge this drug out to the pharmacies. You had to have it on a prescription. It had, it was a physiological effect. It slightly prolonged your heartbeat. But it had been doing that for 50 years, and there was never any overwhelming cardiac epidemics of adverse reactions. It was just something noted if you wired them up to an ECG. Sometimes it prolonged the length of the heartbeat. So these were surged out. Doctors were using it, and they kept using it because it was effective. And Janet Woodcock, who was the head of CEDAR at the moment, the FDA Drug Advisory Committee, Safety. She phoned Rick Bright at BARDA, Biological Advanced Research Development Agency, Authority, whatever they call it, who was controlling the stockpile, and said, look, this drug is dangerous. It's going to kill thousands if these Republicans let it go out. And Bright's not a doctor, he's a PhD in vaccines. He couldn't read an ECG if his life depended on it. Nor is he a pharmacologist, nor is he a pathologist. Okay, he's scientist turned bureaucrat. Very narrow field, vaccinology. So he just took what Woodcock said, and instead of getting an investigational new drug authority, some of our friends overseas gave us the hydroxychloroquine. But it was with the understanding that it wasn't going to be sold on the market. Okay, because we use the drug for like rheumatoid arthritis, for a condition called systemic lupus erythematosus, for a disorder called sarcoid. It has a powerful effect in some other diseases, and it's always proven itself to be very safe. Grandma's taking it at the same dose that we wanted to give young people, old people. Okay, kids we didn't worry about, because the data was showing that, like, they don't really get sick. Okay. They just like, maybe they're like cross and irritable for a day, most of them, unless there's something really seriously wrong with the child, like leukemia or something like that. They just kind of get sick for a day or two, shrug it off, and they've got permanent immunity, at least for months until the virus changes. So it wasn't really a problem. Young adults were getting sick and missing a couple of days' work, but I mean, this thing had less than a 1% death rate. It was an incapacitating agent, if anything. The older people with hypertension, obesity, cardiac disease, respiratory disease, diabetes, these type of things, chronic diseases, it was killing them. This is where most of our deaths came from. It's called comorbidities. So this would be the targeted population. Probably you would want to get these people on this drug early. Okay. Some of them had heart problems. A lot of old people have heart problems. So that would be the doctor's choice, right? Targeted distribution. So that was the plan. Where was the plan? Nobody seemed to be able to find the plan. And now there's people trying to saying that this drug is dangerous and it should only be given in hospital. So instead of an investigational new drug authority, BARDA and the FDA come out with what's called an emergency use authorization. And with the proviso, this needs to be given in hospital, not as an outpatient. Well, if you're in hospital, you're in the second phase of the disease. If you're 3 days into the hospital, you're in sepsis. There's no drug that's going to work for that properly. Well, Dr. Fauci had his drug remdesivir, and he came in and told the president of the United States that it looked like they could have a vaccine pretty quickly. Oh, president didn't go to medical school, right? He's got what was given to him as the top people in the country. He doesn't know if they're frank idiots or conflicts of interest or what. Some of them have been in the government for years. So, not being a doctor, wouldn't you assume that these people know what they're doing? Well, and I refused to believe this till probably about near the end of 2020. I couldn't believe what was happening. And I came into the White House 3rd of February, 2020. I left after the transition. In fact, they threw us out. So we were the last to leave. So fighting this thing. So now all the doctors, you come home, you've seen 40 patients, private practice, or done, 2 bypasses or whatever. You're tired, right? You want to kick your feet up. You want to catch up on the news. You don't want to read a medical journal. You want supper, play with the kids, go to bed, repeat, right?
Sure.
You got patients counting on you to be at your best. Okay. Turn on your news, and there were a couple faulty studies that never should have made it through what we call peer review. I mean, they were just garbage. The first paper came out of Brazil with hydroxychloroquine, and you're looking at the dosages. They gave these people a lethal dose. It's cumulative, right? Hydroxychloroquine stays in your body quite a while. And now you go another obscene dose and then another obscene dose, and it built up to toxic levels, and all the patients were dying, and they're wondering, oh, well, yeah, okay. And these were the sickest patients anyway. HIV, they're already circling the drain.
Yeah.
Cancer. So the paper came out, and then the news got a hold of it, the mainstream media, the most untrusting thing on the planet, by the way. Chloroquine kills, then North Korea is using it. They find out hydroxychloroquine is a safer and even more effective drug.
Then
So
chloroquine.
they're using this. They get their pandemic under control, like boom, within a couple weeks. And they went to some pretty severe population control measures as well. But it was the outpatient treatment that did it. And temporary home quarantine, right? Okay, you come in, you see me, you're sick. No pneumonia yet. Look okay, cardiac okay. Take some hydroxychloroquine for 5 days. Three the first day, every 8 hours, and then one every 12 hours for 5 days. And stay at home and then go to work. You're through the infectious period. You didn't have to go to hospital. Okay? And if you're a clever man, you would act like you're dying so you get lots of attention. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Or at least nobody's yelling at you all the time.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Never forget that ploy.
Noted.
So, but you're not out there spreading it. Okay? That's the big thing. By the time you come to hospital, you've already infected everyone behind you. Right? So the idea was to catch it really early in the pandemic. And we've seen 58 countries use this stuff early. And they managed to keep their pandemic under control within what their medical systems could handle. Within about 2 weeks. Dharavi is the largest slum in India. If you've seen the program or the movie Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah.
Part of that was actually filmed in Dharavi. You can't social distance there. You can't do anything there. We were waiting to see what happened in India. And on this first wave that was just like wrecking everything here, they got it under control in 2 weeks. They got it down to almost 0 cases. But they knew it was going to be a problem. They had 2,500 doctors and teams, and they just flooded into this area, and they knocked on every door. I mean, it's hot in India, okay? It really is. And they're all in their gear, sweating. And they came in like, we're here to help, not like Gestapo, right? And if there was like somebody that really was sick with medical, they had a separate facility where they could safely take him and isolate him and give him better care than what you could get at home. And come in, take an interview at the door. They had a pulse oximeter on the end of a pole, and they'd hold it and they'd put their finger in it and read it, okay? And they treat the whole family. Oh, and lock down the block. And they had pandemic volunteers that would bring them food and meals and this type. It was all really carefully thought out. And they got a grip of it. And I'm going like, what is going on here? And our cases are just starting to go exponential.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so now I think we're in April. Second study gets published. And this was a retrospective study where these knuckleheads just went back and looked at the VA hospital. VA wasn't involved, but they called it the VA study. They went back and, okay, who died and who got oh, wow, the people that got hydroxychloroquine died. Yeah, well, again, they were the sickest patients. It's not a proper clinical study. You try to balance this out if you're going to use statistics. So the FDA wasted no time and they put a black label on the hydroxychloroquine, and that's all the news. Neil Cavuto. If you go to the hospital, they try to give you chlorine. Don't take it. It will kill you. The president's recommending a lethal drug. We're watching this on TV in the White House, and I'm just like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
This is the safest drug known. You can give it to pregnant mothers. You can give it to nursing mothers. It's
like a multivitamin.
This is insane.
Yeah.
So, and the hospital patients, of course, now, if you're working in the hospital, it's usually a medical center and you're usually involved in research projects, right? So you're just waiting for something to come along so you can write a paper.
Yeah.
Publish or perish. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first papers that are coming out showing this hydroxychloroquine doesn't do anything. These are small bullware. What an ass. Small sample size, late patients, but they're saying early. Well, no, they're not giving it until they get the PCR tests back. And the PCR tests weren't working, remember? The CDC rolled them out. They didn't work at all. And then they rolled them out with such a high CT value that you could get water to turn positive. And so now they're screaming, oh, it's asymptomatic transmission. Oh, the children are asymptomatic. They're giving it to us. Lock down the schools. Well, no. A CT run at 40 for this virus means nothing. It's dead virus you've been exposed to in the environment. Your body's getting rid of it. CT at 30, that's a different story. That's the number of cycles that the PCR machine takes. But at 40, it's completely unreliable. And suddenly this is being used like for diagnostic testing all over the country. It's a research tool. And Pete Navarro comes on and I said, why is everyone spending so much money on this stuff? You don't need testing. And he's like, I just like committed blasphemy.
Yeah.
What do you mean we don't need testing? I said, Peter, you don't need to test for this. Doctors, I didn't explain. I just let it go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you tell Peter something, you better have a stack of papers this high, it's like a PhD thesis presentation. You better defend what you just told him. And so anyway, when you come in and see me with the flu or something, I don't take a swab and see what's causing your flu. What strain is it influenza? Is it common cold? Is it coronavirus cold? I listen to your chest, make sure there's no lung involvement. Take some NyQuil, don't kiss anyone. If it gets worse, give me a ring. Right?
Yeah.
And you get better. Stay home, don't go to work. So suddenly everybody had to be tested. And these late stage patients that were getting into hospital breathless are waiting like 3 days to get a PCR result back. And then they put them on hydroxychloroquine. And now like they're a day away from sepsis. You see the insanity here?
Yeah.
So, and every time there's a negative study, I'm in Peter's office trying to explain this. Okay? So I'm getting fed up with that as well. Because I mean, that's hours I could be, these are 14-hour days people are putting in the whole office. That's 3 hours sleep I just missed out on. Okay? So continued on that way. And then there was the Surgicel paper published in the Lancet, which turned out to be completely fraudulent. It was made up. It was like they looked at 90,000 pages, something ridiculous. 2 minutes into the paper, you said, this ain't right. And half the doctors in the country that read it said, this ain't right. And it turns out it was all made up. by a company called Surgicel. But that was enough, boy. I said, Peter, we got to write. You got to write a letter, a memo to Stephen Hahn, the FDA committee, tell him, look, this stuff has to be given early. Okay, Stephen Hahn is a radiation oncologist. He's not an infectious disease guy. I don't know how he ended up as FDA chairman. His buddy, Dr. I think it was Shaw, very nice man, also radiotherapy. So obviously they were buddies from the old days, but neither one of them had a clue what they were doing. And so Peter drafts a memo, sends it off. Look, all the data shows you got to use it, within the first few days after symptoms. We didn't hear nothing back. So what the hey? And then okay, yeah, the black box label appears, and then they withdraw the emergency use authorization. Of course, the doctor coming home that's seen 40 patients that day in private practice, family practice, or in a HMO, who's exhausted, he turns it on and EUAs, it's killing people, hydroxychloroquine, don't use it. Oh my God. Okay. So the use of this just, overnight dropped, because we had figures from the distributors on how much was getting used, and it just went boom. So now you got nothing. Your choice then, and then remdesivir, Dr. Fauci's favorite drug. Chris came in and I don't know where they get this stuff, but there were the Chinese clinical trials that had been done earlier on for remdesivir. And I get to page 2 and oh, here, Chris, this will never be used. It's killing people. It's toxic. Bone marrow stuff, this, that. Half the people couldn't finish the course from toxicity, kidneys, all sorts of liver. A lot of damage, this drug. So, this will never get. Next thing we know, there's an EUA from remdesivir from Gilead Life Sciences. I'm going, oh, this can't be. Where's the clinical trial stuff? And it's there's something wrong here. And Dr. Fauci gets in the couch. I remember it very well. All comfortable sitting on the couch. And, I think it was maybe even the Oval Office. And he's saying, yes, this is now, the goalpost when they tried it was, did they live or die if they were on remdesivir? Well, it was showing no effect whether you live or die, but a couple people were getting out of hospital a little earlier. So now suddenly this becomes the standard of care. Well, what they didn't show is that a lot of these people had been on hydroxychloroquine in the hospital. It stays in your body for days. So how do you know that the people that went home early, it wasn't due to the residual hydroxychloroquine rather than remdesivir? So do you see how sloppy things were? They wanted it off the market. Then along came ivermectin. Same thing. Nobel Prize awarded. Millions of people have had it. Cleared out river blindness, in Africa. Terrible disease. And wow, and very safe. And doctors were using it and saying, wow, yeah, it's like hydroxychloroquine. Oh, and you can give them together. You can give ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine together. They work differently. And the other thing about hydroxychloroquine was, when you bring out a drug against an RNA virus that's constantly changing, like the COVID-19 virus, it's going to find a way to break through that drug. There's just so many mutations. It's not one virus when you're infected. It's like a whole bunch of them, and they're all trying to see who gets to be the boss and replicate. Yeah. And so there's natural selection going on in your body. And if you got one strain and the remdesivir's killed everything else, and this one doesn't, this is going to be the dominant strain. It's going to get transmitted. And then a population, after a couple of weeks, you start seeing drug resistance. And not with hydroxychloroquine, because it actually changes your body just a little bit. And it's just enough so when the virus gets in there, it can't get out of your cell. It's locked in. And your cell kills and chews it up. So your chances of getting drug resistance or a vaccine resistance, because it does the same thing if you're vaccinated. One of those little things is just, these things are so small you can't see it with a microscope. You have to have a big electron microscope to see these things. They're infinitesimally tiny. And okay, this one is like, okay, defeats the vaccine. That's going to become dominant globally within weeks due to modern air travel. And now your vaccine doesn't work. And this is exactly what happened when these messenger RNA vaccines came out. But everything was being saved for the vaccines. So Fauci's doing his clinical trial for remdesivir. Doctors aren't prescribing hydroxychloroquine because the press have terrified them of it, a lot of them. So you're actually not getting any early outbreak, and this thing is just getting out of control now. We're above 30,000 cases, deaths. Okay, that's like our worst flu. See, this and all these people, this is just going to snowball now. And the computer model was inaccurate that they were using, the Ferguson model. It was showing like enough deaths that the infrastructure of our large cities could be affected. Like New York and Los Angeles, these mega city things. Boy, they live on a balance of dominoes. Nobody knows how the bread gets into the supermarket. It's a very complicated thing to get from the field to the refined, to this, to that, to the final product, to the shelf. And all of that complicated system is dependent on an even more complicated system of how you get oil out of the ground to the refinery, to all the different products, and to every gas station all over the country. It's chaos theory. Nobody knows how it works.
Yeah.
We just know if you mess around with it too much, the whole thing collapses. And if gas collapses, the fuel thing collapses, then everything else is going to collapse, because that's how we transport things around the country. So this was the nightmare of that. And this Ferguson guy's never been right once in his life.
Walgreens RX.
He's never been right once in his life. So, well, maybe once. Everybody's right once. A squirrel's right. A blind squirrel finds a nut, every now and then. But it wasn't anything that should have been taken to heart. And it looks to me like he just went back over the old CDC projections for influenza, for the 1918 type influenza, and just put COVID-19 on it. So, this is what we had to deal with there. And it turned into a war of physicians. Small number of people against the federal health agencies. And I had to go stand in the corner once. I was a bad boy. But I was having enough. So I wrote a letter to Mark Meadows and said, look, you're basing everything on these vaccines. They're experimental. We don't know what's going to happen. And if the vaccines don't work, what's your plan B? You just got rid of everything. The drug's working. It's safe. We know that. This is in September. There was overwhelming data because doctors were still using it. All over the world, 58 countries were using it, and they were keeping things under control. US had the highest death rate. India's death rate was half of ours in 2020. India, because they were doing aggressive use, and then they quit. Who's that powerful to make this stuff happen? And then the ivermectin, and Fauci got rid of that. And there's no randomized clinical trials that were done on it, RCTs. Well, these aren't cancer drugs. These are antiviral agents, okay? And we're seeing like 70% improved mortality. Nothing does that. Cancer drugs, maybe you live 6 months longer. Oh yeah, let's put that on the market. It works. No, you just live 6 months longer. This is why the Infectious Disease Society of America, their protocols, only 14% have been derived from randomized controlled trials. Most of it's controlled, but observational. You have a control group that gets the drug. You have another group that doesn't get the drug, the control group. You have a treatment group that gets the drug, and you compare them. When you're seeing a 70% improvement, average, you don't need a randomized controlled clinical trial. You know, it's like having a fire in your trash can and your house burning down. When do you think you should phone the fire department? If you do, pour water on the fire. And hydroxychloroquine was not water. It put it out. And they got rid of it. And then all the medical journals were agreeing this is the thing to do. And then they got rid of ivermectin. They didn't even let that get started, although private doctors were using it off-label. And they would publish papers. Dr. O'Neill's a wonderful man. And we got close during this 2020. And he was using it up in Detroit. And the patient came in breathless. He would go down and see him in the ER. And if there were no contraindications, he'd put him, he wouldn't even wait on testing, right? It was his clinical judgment. He put him on it. And he ended up with a paper in I think it was 2nd of June or July, one of them, that showed 51% improvement in mortality. This is major news. This is groundbreaking. New England Journal of Medicine turned it down. Well, you know, we've published a lot of COVID paper. No, we're not going to publish it. So he sent it off to JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association. No, we're not going to publish this. Finally, a Journal of Infectious Diseases publishes it, international, but they're not going to publish it right away because of the controversy it would cause. No, this is real. This really happened. Then Mount Sinai published, and then a Spanish group published, and they had a 66% improvement in mortality. But it's taken 6 months to get the word out, right? And the press aren't reporting on it. You think this is major, major news. But they're all guilty of getting rid of this drug. Not one of them have been to medical school, these journalists. And the ones that have been are just idiots. The ones on the nightly news don't have a clue what they're talking about. And they're not going to go back on it. And the drug companies have now put a lot of money into developing these vaccines. They want them out there. And who supports the journals? Where do the pharmaceutical companies advertise? In the medical journals. Yeah. So you see the situation here. Half of the CDC personnel, when they leave, they go to big pharma or some sort of development. The FDA depends on its funding from big pharma. Around the mid-90s, FDA had to do all the clinical trials and all that stuff, and to save money, they said, well, the drug companies will. Well, that's like asking the burglar to look after your jewels while you're gone. And these studies that were coming out, or we now know, were pathetic nonsense. Cover-ups, all this, Freedom of Information Act. Two of the most wonderful organizations I know for American liberty is one called Judicial Watch, and the other one's called America's First Legal. And they started a non-ending fight for Freedom of Information Act requests. All of it, most of them had to go for lawsuits. So now there's 2 years gone. Pfizer then, okay, well, yeah, we'll release the data, but, you know, only over like in 70 years' time, because they know what they've done. The vaccines in their clinical trials were too small to show anything. Didn't prevent infection. There was no demonstration of that. Didn't prevent transmission. And it most certainly, there was no evidence that showed it prevented more severe disease or hospitalization. Studies were too small. Plus, they used the fittest, healthiest people they could find for the trials. The vaccine, they should have used the worst cases, like in the old people with all these things wrong with them. I'm getting older now. I'm starting to get a list. If I was a car, I would trade myself in. Like tomorrow. Okay, that's the population you needed to test against.
Yeah.
You don't just say, well, it'll prevent, you know, more. And everybody's swallowing this crap. Sorry to swear. Everybody's swallowing this facade of correct information. It's totally incorrect. There's no data to show it. Still no data to show it. And they just authorized another booster. Well, here's the cruncher on the vaccine. So like the vaccine, highly experimental. There's this protein on the COVID-19 virus called the spike protein. That's like the key that lets it get into the cell, unlock it and get in. But dude, this thing has some really unusual sequences in it. Like there's a motif in there that resembles the toxin from like toxic shock syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it was a tampon problem back in the 90s, super absorbent lung. And these women just started dying of like from toxins. There were two involved. And this little motif that's in the spike protein is the active region of one of those toxins. What's that doing in there? That's not normal. There's no evolution. Why? And if you grow it on human cells, it stays in there. But if you grow it on monkey kidney cells, that little segment gets thrown out. So this is kind of indicative that somebody put it there.
Made in a lab, yeah.
But it was really clever because it's not the sequence. The computers would have identified that. But proteins fold. When you put these amino acids, they fold in a particular pattern.
Yeah.
If you change a couple of amino acids, it folds differently.
Yeah.
And they had gotten this thing to fold sterically to match the SED.
Okay, but it wasn't the same exact sequence. It was just.
But it wasn't. The computers didn't pick it up.
It was just how it folded. Okay.
And why would it have found its way into an animal virus? Then there were these other little areas. Do you know what a prion is?
Mm-hmm. Mad cow disease.
Yeah.
Can't kill it with autoclaves or disinfectants
You're
or
very resistant to degradation, right?
fucking alien
Some
protein.
of them call it prions. I call them prions. You say tomato, I say tomato.
Yeah, they both go straight to your brain. Doesn't matter how you pronounce it.
So anyway, these prions, there's 4 segments that look like they would form these insoluble clumps. There's a number of proteins that do that. We call it amyloid. Prion is
Dementia,
like
right?
just
Or
sort of,
Alzheimer's.
that's, well, amyloid,
Amyloid
yeah.
plaque.
But technically, mad cow disease is amyloid.
Okay.
It's just a different protein than the one that causes Alzheimer's. And if it gets deposited in your brain, you can't get rid of it. Well, it looks like now we've had enough autopsies that it's getting deposited in the brain. Whether it stays there or gets degraded into toxic, fibrils, it looks like it might. How long it's going to stay there, we don't know. But this little coating segment that's in the vaccine, they changed it so it couldn't get degraded by your body. And dude, some of this stuff is like one shot. It's circulating in your blood for 160 days. I mean, whoa. And that vaccine is giving you a lot of doses. It goes into the cell, tells the cell to make this spike protein. And these are full-length spike protein transcripts that are circulating. And eventually they're going to lock onto something. Yeah. And the autopsies are showing deposition in the brain. We don't know. And now you're injecting 5-month-old babies. We don't know what's going to happen. I've not seen any sequencing of this new vaccine, COVID vaccine that's just come out. Did they genetically remove those amyloid areas, amyloid prone areas, prion areas? Did they take out the staphylococcal enterotoxin B motif? I don't know, but I think somebody should have a look at that. This is the nightmare that a year in the White House will do to you. I'm gray now, dude. Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
2021, I came home and just watched reruns of the Gong Show on television. I didn't want to do anything.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even start the new book till about 2023. So we got a new book coming out. It seems to have survived the first pass through editors, and they're drawing up contracts and stuff now, apparently. But we take the reader through all this and what it's like actually to watch all this nonsense go on and be unable to do anything about it, and what needs to be fixed. And I was talking to a very good senator about, I don't know, months ago. And we were discussing the way forward. And I told him, no one trusts the federal health agencies now. No one trusts the government. Until people go to jail over this. And Pfizer, they knew they fudged the data. That's why they didn't want to release it for 70 years till they're dead and gone. We need to have a scientific team merged with a special prosecutor's office, right? Expert scientists, different fields, special prosecutor that's like a real badass.
Mm-hmm.
maybe one that's lost family members because of this nonsense. And they need to go after these. This can never be allowed to happen again. There also we need to bring something back called the Congressional Office of Science and Tech, OTA, Office of Technology Assessment. Newt Gingrich got rid of it in the 90s because they were giving him a hard time about some things he wanted to do. And it never got reestablished. But they had experts, about 100 of them, members, and they would bring in outside people, like the finest they could find, the best, and they'd bring them in for both sides, the yays and the nays. And they would lock them in a room and feed them hamburgers under the door till they came to a consensus that could be guiding policy for our congressional members dealing with science or technology, whether it's a superconducting super collider or a prostate surface antigen test.
Just new
prostate cancer.
Yeah, just new.
And they tackle some of these things. Took a year to come up with a finding on and guidance for the lawmakers, but they never brought them back. That needs to come back now. If we had had an OTA, Congressional Office of Technology Assessment, this never would have happened, because the data was so overwhelming for both the safety of hydroxychloroquine as well as its efficacy, that the drug companies wouldn't have stood a chance of getting away with anything. The GAO, the Government Accountability Office, they used to be really good. 20 years ago, boy. But I don't know what's happened to them. They seem to be pretty ineffective now. And you can tell by the quality of the reports is significantly decreased. And they were supposed to sort of take up the mantle from the Office of Technology Assessment. They never really did. So this is something that could be very quick. There's still people, Dr. Hirschhorn and some others are still around from the OTA days.
I've had him on.
Yeah, these guys could get
Joel,
this.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. I think he's an engineer. He's not even medical.
Yeah.
But they know how this stuff works. And they could get this back together really quickly and have it running again. We need it.
He wrote a book on.
Cannot trust the federal health agencies now.
Hirschhorn wrote a book on during the pandemic about everything going on and how just he came on here like 10, 15 times. Yeah, just pick it apart. Yeah, it's not like
if you don't have access to the mainstream media. I've been doing programs since, well, I shouldn't have been, but I was an outsider brought in. You know, I volunteered.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was volunteered.
Voluntold.
And I was fortunate enough to be able to do it. So I could occasionally go in front of the press.
Yeah. But
they didn't know where I worked. I was at George Washington University as an assistant adjunct professor. That's, you know, so we could keep the White House out of it. And I could freely express my opinions, which you can't if you're on staff. There's a lot of rules in the press department, and they, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess you could see the reason for that.
Sure.
But we did absolutely everything we could, to the point of, you know, really kind of exceeding the boundary and putting pressure on the FDA and CDC. And we were right. The studies now, I think there's over 300 hydroxychloroquine studies. 51 to 81% improvement. 15 early use trials, all showing dramatic effects if given early. No cardiac events. You look at the vaccines. Well, I'm not even sure of the figures because the PCR tests were so screwed up. But I think India had 500,000 and we had over 1 million. How much of those were false? I don't know. But we were kind of leading the world there. All because of bureaucracy and not doing the right thing. Greed. It's the only way I can explain this.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm comfortable saying it's just bureaucracy. I think that's a lot of it. I think there was a lot of malevolent, nefarious greed.
Billionaires were made out of these vaccines.
It's fun and convenient to say the government's stupid, and they are, but that is also letting off a lot of people from the hook who are not stupid. They're evil motherfuckers.
Well, Janet Woodcock is curious because she's a rheumatologist by training. She's written lots of scripts for hydroxychloroquine. She would be familiar with its safety. And we know she told Rick Bright that because Rick Bright got fired for insubordination. He didn't do what 3 layers of leadership asked him to do. And that was to get an investigational new drug for hydroxychloroquine. Okay. To ensure that it was coming out of the stockpile and it was being used for COVID-19, not other purposes. And that was reasonable. The people really, that's a lot of hydroxychloroquine we got given and precursors and stuff like a lot of people helped us. That's only right that we, and with the EUA and hospital only treatment, you're stopping the drug where it needs to be. This had to have been intentional.
Yeah.
She's got a history of doing things. If you go back through her history, she's got a history of siding with the drug companies.
Yeah.
Not the health of America.
As
So these are legal documents. I feel quite comfortable. Yeah, sue me, please.
Yeah,
Please sue me. Let's get this in the docket.
Yeah.
Let's do the discovery.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's maybe I'm just kind of used to it now because I've done so many of these shows where we talk about it, and I sometimes have to remember.
Nothing surprises you anymore.
No, and it's very sad. It's very sad
it's
what's happened. It's
tragic and it's un-American.
It's inhumane, is what it is. It's
criminal, is what it is.
Yeah.
Do you ever drink this stuff?
Red Bull?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Red Bull. I like it.
I usually open one, and it's no good when it goes warm. For me, it's got to be ice cold.
No, you gotta have a thermos for some ice.
So I've got a lot of empty cans around, and I'll usually go out around 4 o'clock, and I feed the squirrels. You probably shouldn't, but I like to, it's kind of relaxing. You have your, you're watching out the window and they're playing and chasing and running up. Holy cow. So I usually leave like some nuts or something for them, and I'll put some Red Bull in like a water bowl.
Yeah. Watch them
Dude, after nuts. About 10, this is like squirrel crack. These things are just out of control. They're fighting, they're rolling around, they're up and down the tree, up and down the tree. It's
I've never done that.
pretty humorous.
I had to put my dog down in 2020. He was
sorry.
He was 17. He was just this old toy poodle, just fucking old as the hit. He was paralyzed from the waist down.
Yeah.
And so we never had to get him fixed. So he also still had his balls. So he was just full testosterone. He weighed like 6 pounds.
Yeah.
He tried to fight like deer. He tried to fight horses.
Yeah.
Like insane. No, I loved him. But
we had one that got me clear through junior high, past college. I think they put it down after medical school. My sister did.
We got this
And
dog.
it would fall down the stairs and had cataracts and
Oh
everything.
yeah, no. Oh no,
But it was a happy dog.
Oscar was the best. We got him in '03. Um, I remember holding. I was in middle school. I remember watching the news of when we started bombing Baghdad with
Yeah.
Oscar, and I also remember watching like pandemic reports with Oscar. That's how fucking old he was.
Yeah.
Beginning of Iraq War through the pandemic. Oh yeah, no, couldn't see, couldn't hear shit. It was just
I mean, you
crazy.
get so attached to these
Oh, I
things.
loved him. No, no, he couldn't walk around. He like his last year he like couldn't stand up, but I would just carry him around. I was like, I can't put
Yeah.
him down. But
Yeah.
eventually, he started to have like panic attacks, and I was like, I felt so bad for him. But uh, of like speaking of drug and squirrels, Oscar used to love he loved the foam of beer. He didn't like beer, but he liked foam,
Yeah.
and he really liked Crown Royal. So every once in a while, I'd pour him a little saucer, and like he already couldn't walk and shit, but I mean he would straight up get
I
he,
had
he would
when
get loopy.
when I was in Africa, you know what a meerkat is?
Yeah,
You know, they sit up in
yeah,
there. And I had three of them. And they are the best pets in the entire world.
yeah,
You come home and they all chitter and they come running towards you and they up your leg and
yeah,
they give you a hug.
yeah.
You know, they're squeezing your, they're like, Daddy's home.
Oh no, yeah,
And the one was really tame, and I'd take it down to the pub with me
yeah,
after work, and it would sit there.
yeah.
And it's a great girl magnet.
Oh
Because
yeah.
it all, oh, it's so cute, and this, and you get to chatting to the girl, and the thing's off your arm, and it's
Oh, I
like
learned.
going down the bar,
Yeah,
and it's sipping the foam off everybody's beer.
yeah. Now Oscar looked like a teddy bear. I discovered that when I was about 13 that he was a chick mag. He had a little wheelchair too, so he could take him
Yeah,
walking and stuff. Oh
yeah.
my, it was like shooting fish in a barrel. A little teddy bear in a wheelchair. Holy
Yeah,
shit. Yeah. No, it was so unfair. No,
yeah.
he loved it. And I brought him down. I brought when I was at UGA. I brought him to Georgia once. And that's when I also found out Oscar loved weed. He would rip a bong, blow it in his face. He would just sit there. He loved to sniff it in, and then he would just kind of you'd think he's dead. He would lie down on a pillow. You'd poke him, be like, "Is he alive?" And he'd look at you, you'd be like, "All right, he's still alive." He, stoner.
I,
He was a drunk. Yeah,
I do that with McDonald's Big Macs.
yeah,
I just like,
yeah. That's what Oscar was. Just total drug addict, and like, yeah. No, he was the best. And but I did get I did get some life lessons from Oscar. And it's because he was blind. I didn't really know what he was looking
yeah,
at towards the end.
yeah,
But dude, he would start. I'm not kidding. You'd see people walking with pit bulls. He didn't know any better. He still had his nuts and he couldn't see anything.
yeah,
I lived with my parents in Maryland at the time in Ocean City, so you could go on the boardwalk and stuff. They had all the horses, all the cops on horses. Oscar would start growling and nipping at him. Oscar weighed 6 pounds. These horses had to have been 1,500 pounds, and they'd back up and because they're all like fixed. So Oscar's the only one.
Meerkat. Oh, yeah, I had two Great Danes, like the
Yeah,
big ones, both
yeah,
black, and nobody wanted to bob their tail, so that there were no lamps in the house
yeah,
because they knock them over. But Gigi, the male, would chase. I watched him chase this thing out of the house.
yeah.
Back the thing was backing up,
Oh yeah,
backing clear out the door to his outside.
oh yeah.
That's pretty brave.
Well, what I learned from him was like I would kind of laugh because I'd be like, he's too stupid to know that he's gonna get his ass kicked. But I watched him for almost 2 decades never get his ass kicked because he was just so full of testosterone
Yeah,
that he would just and I'm not even kidding when I say like it's taught me to just like if someone's like fucking with you, even through the podcast, YouTube's
yeah,
like, we're gonna ban you. I'm just like, fuck off. Like I'm like,
yeah,
what would Oscar do? Oscar would dial it up. He would just total war, no
yeah,
treaties, no diplomatic ties. He would just he was meant to be like a Cold War general. And
yeah,
I'd use it for the podcast. I just scorched earth. No, anyone ever tries to do anything with my show, you need to stop talking to these doctors. No, just full napalm.
yeah.
Babies in the volcano. And that's
It's
the
not
lesson I got
the
from Oscar.
it's not the dog in the fight, it's the fight in the dog.
Yeah, and Oscar was insane. He'd shit himself, fall over, and still try to start a fight with you. It was impressive.
You gotta love them. Do you know how we know that they really are a man's best friend?
No.
Take your girlfriend or your wife and your dog, put them in the trunk of your car, and come back after an hour. Who's
Yeah,
happy to see you?
you're goddamn right. I moved home with my parents when I was 26. My life had gone pretty downhill.
Yeah,
And I've told you I lost my older brother to suicide
yeah,
a
yeah.
couple of years before that. I moved home. Girlfriend dumped me, lost all my friends. Everyone I've really just in the pits. That dog was like the only thing on this planet that
Yeah,
didn't look at me differently because I had gained 50 pounds. I was
yeah.
addicted to drugs. I needed therapy. It's the only thing that looked at me and was just like, Tommy's home. It's just like he was with me through the top. I started this podcast with him. You'd
Yeah.
sit next to me. I'm like, this is the only motherfucker that like never once batted his eye at me. Now, granted, he was also blind, so maybe he couldn't, but
It's unconditional love.
it absolutely is unconditional. He was ride or die. He was
Yeah.
ready to start fights. He was ready to. I'm sure if I looked at Oscar and was like, we need to start selling crack, he would have been. He would have been
Well,
down.
it's funny when you get to know them a bit because you know what they're thinking.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah, yeah,
no.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah. No, no, he was the best. Yeah, he was the best. And I don't know. That's kind of the takeaway I've had from it is what would Oscar do? Oscar would just
well,
start a
it's
fight.
also your character, Tommy, to come out of all that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I mean I still think I was talking to a friend about it the other night. It's been such an insane but to tie it into this, I think that's a lot of why whether it's with you or Dr. Malone or Dr. Bargava or any of the doctors I've had on. And people are like, why did you keep interviewing these? Like, you got banned from YouTube, iTunes, Reddit, Twitter. Like, what? And I think it's kind of like what I went through, just with family and myself, and that it was like that was all so much more overwhelming and emotionally burdening and
Yeah.
taxing that when you start a podcast and you get an email from YouTube, it's just like, what's the down? You're gonna ban me? Like I've been to my brother's funeral. Do you know how little of a shit you mean to me? Like you can't talk to this doctor. I'm like, what?
But look at the service you've done the country, helping to get the word out and educate people. Anything we've talked about here is reference material.
Yeah. Oh
I've
yeah.
got a website. You can go read how this whole thing transpired, if there's any interest. But yeah, it's not something made up. This is unbelievable what happened and the malice.
I also
It can't be described any other way. No one is that stupid.
no,
No one.
no. Stupidity that can explain so much of an event, but
And look at the Biden administration. I mean, that's just been a total shambles. And President Biden isn't a doctor either. What's the commonality between the two administrations? The same people.
mm-hmm.
It's not the president. It's the senior
Executive
personnel that
branch.
have been there for years.
Yeah, I was gonna
And
say,
they just do what they want with very little oversight. Need to bring back an Office of Technology Assessment. Get Joel on to talk about it again, because it has to be repeated.
I can get you
Or
on. I can get you on with them if
get
you
Joel
want.
on again.
Do you want to come on
And
with them?
huh?
You want to talk with them?
Sure, I'll talk
Yeah,
with
yeah.
him.
I'll
He's
I'll
kind
get
of
you
my
on.
hero.
Yeah, no, I haven't chatted with him in a while, but yeah, no, I'll shoot him an email. I'll make a note of it right now.
Yeah, let's get him to talk about the OTA
Yeah,
and how it could have prevented all this nonsense and really saved hundreds of thousands of Americans and our economy And we really would have had China over a barrel.
Yeah.
Now it's out of control.
Yeah. But I did want to ask, and then we'll wrap this up. Just from your own experience with what you're saying, you come home from a year at the White House and you're just like, I just want to watch TV. It's, it's just, and you hear it in presidents too. They're like you have multiple presidents. You can go back and find like, what did you feel like the day, like, you hand it over to your successor and they're like, I've never been more relieved in my life. Like,
Yeah.
hand over the nuclear football. I mean, they're just
no, it's not a job you should want.
No. So my point is what kind of empathy or understanding does it maybe give you to people in the Pentagon, generals, admirals, who, in hindsight, we can look at wars like a Vietnam, a Korea, war on terror, now Ukraine, aid to Israel, and it's always so easy to criticize them and, oh, you killed and all that, and it's never perfect. But they're in it not for an administration, they're in it for administrations. Does it give you, there's no right or wrong answer. Does it give you a different understanding of these guys? It's a thankless job, and
It's a thankless job, but like anything, you have good personnel and you have bad.
sure.
When this COVID thing started, after about the first year, there's a thing called the Defense Medical Science Board, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are outside scientists and experts in many different areas, kind of like an OTA for the military.
Sure.
There's different boards, and the medical board is for like medical things.
Yeah.
For the service men and women and their families. And after about during the first year of the Biden administration, those boards were dissolved.
Hmm.
The Medical Science Board. And then you had the edict that everybody's going to get a vaccine.
Yeah.
A vaccine, one, that doesn't work, two, doesn't stop transmission. And Pfizer will admit, oh yeah, no, we never studied if it protected you from getting infected. No, they didn't. Doesn't stop transmission. Uninfected, infected, same amount of virus in the upper airway. Same degree of infectiousness to others. Doesn't stop you going into hospital. Doesn't stop you from dying. They got rid of anyone that could talk against that. Then mandated. Look, you can't mandate an experimental product. In fact, the government's not even allowed to promote it. And they took it completely away from doctors. And that's why I say a war of physicians. PhDs are acting like they're doctors now. Well, that's ridiculous. And now that the vaccine things are done, guess what they're bringing back? The Defense Medical Science Board.
Oh, that's good.
They caught the Pentagon changing figures for vaccine-associated adverse events. So where does this stop? Who was in charge of that? Who was supposed to be overseeing all this? Okay. Anytime there's big money involved in stuff, where are the guys that made this decision about mass vaccination? Where are they working now?
Yeah, right. Was it Scott
It's
Gottlieb?
supposed to be a moratorium, but it's not long enough. You stay out 2 years, you still have your contacts.
Yeah.
And that's what you're hired for, not your capability. Dr. Hahn, the former FDA commissioner, he gave it about 6 months, I think, And now he's the senior medical advisor for the venture capital company that financed the Moderna vaccine.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, come on. This has to stop. Once money gets involved, people lose their minds. There has to be OTA would have provided the check and balance, is what I'm trying to say. Needs to come back.
kind of seems like the value of journalism, the fourth estate.
There is no value in journalism now. It's be first.
Yeah. Well, no,
Breaking news.
not with those, because those have all consolidated. All the media companies have now consolidated towards nothing but circle jerking and money.
Well, it's the Trusted News Initiative. This was decided before
Yeah, before it
when the
all
British
started.
were having interference.
Yeah.
And it started out as a noble idea. And then they got involved in health affairs. You've got Google executives shutting down Peter McCulloch, the most published cardiologist in probably the world, I think. Certainly the United States.
It's the world, yeah.
Okay. An MBA shutting him down? Come on. Making medical decisions for millions of Americans? When the CDC started actively data mining and selecting people and shutting them down, and America's First Legal uncovered all this. We call it the Twitter papers.
Yeah.
You can go to their website and read all about it. And doctors could not physically get the word out of what was happening.
Well, it's
in America, in the United States of America, you're not allowed freedom of speech.
Well, it's what I would say to people when they'd say, like, how do you, Tommy? I'm 33 now. When I was doing a lot of these, I was 30, 31. Like, how are you getting all of these doctors on? And I was like, it's no superlative of my own. Sure, I work hard. I won't cheat myself that, but it's pretty easy when every other thing is so bought and so censored that at a certain point they made it for me. They cleared the path for me. When you tell me, what do you do? I'd tell them what I always did. I'd send a respectful email. Hey, sir, here I am. I'd love to have you. And when they come on, what did I do today's episode? I shut up for the middle 90% and just let you say whatever you want. That's all people wanted. And these are the reasons why I got all these doctors, is because they just wanted to get the word out. I had no entrenched interest. I don't have any
being a doctor,
advisor.
Being a physician is not just a physician, because whether you want to or not, you become an educator.
Yeah.
And I kind of find it rewarding. I don't see patients anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And helping to train the next generation is very, very rewarding.
Yeah.
And I know why all the old graybeards took their time with me now.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got a population that isn't aware of current events or have enough basic education to understand it. How do you know when you vote if you're doing the correct thing?
Well, you don't. You'll be.
Well, you don't.
That society will decline.
Yeah.
And then it will.
Half the world out there want us dead.
Yeah.
They don't want to take us over. They're just tired of looking at us and everything that we have, and they're jealous, and they want us to disappear.
Yeah.
Chinese want to take control over everything. They look at us like we're inferior.
What's that?
So,
I think it's an Orwell quote.
Don't you think that should bring a people together when everyone else in the world wants you dead?
You'd think. But how do you get that word out?
How do you get the word out?
So that's where
how do you get people to think? People have 3 jobs just to put food on the table,
Yeah.
and they don't have time for anything else.
Well, that's also a reason why I would do so many of these episodes, is I'm in a unique position where this is my job. I get to do this all day.
It's your job.
And I'd be like, you know what? Yeah, it's important because there are a lot. I don't have kids, I'm not married. I don't have all that. A lot of guys my age are, they got 2 bouncing kids and a pregnant wife and a job, and they're trying to do this, that, and the other thing. Like they don't have time to look up what the Trusted News Initiative is and
No.
and what are all these censorship boards and what's BARDA and what's it. No,
Yeah.
they have 30 minutes on the drive home. So I'm like, I'll slap together an interview and throw it on Spotify and you can listen to
Yeah.
it. So but my point with journalism is I'm not totally black pilled in that if the truth can find its way to me,
Yeah.
then I do have hope. Because all you need is one outlet.
Yeah.
Sure, it could be mine and it's unholy and I swear and I scream in most episodes. I leave halfway through to go take a piss.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to put out just uncensored, I don't have an agenda. I never give a shit.
Honey Badger don't care.
No, exactly. And like to me, I haven't totally given up because it got. I mean, I
You
interviewed
can't
Dr.
give up, Tommy. You can't give up.
No, giving up's gay.
You give up, you don't win. There's no
No,
hope of winning.
no, giving up is it's
Never
it.
quit. Never
No,
give up.
no, that's a fate worse than death. Giving up is also look at who you're. I'd always look like an Anthony Fauci. I'm like, am I really gonna let that guy beat me?
Yeah.
That's someone you should stuff into a locker. I'm not gonna let him bully me, right?
Yeah.
It'd be a little different if like General Mattis came out and was like, fuck Tommy Carrigan. I'd be like, well, that's terrifying. He's gonna kill me. Right? Anthony Fauci, it's like
I
that.
really had high hopes for him.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I was really disappointed. I mean, he looked like a general.
Yeah.
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 Man. And they gone back to the old World War II uniforms.
Hmm.
Wow, they look like generals.
Yeah. Yeah, that was disappointing too. But
Yeah.
I think it'll work out. I do.
No
Because
guarantee, Tommy.
of course there's not. We're never.
You got to trust. There is a silent majority, but we've never depended on them this much since I think our country was founded.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really going to be a critical next few years. And nobody can predict what's going to happen.
Well, it does ultimately come down to it's like when you're in an exam and you're having a panic attack, there's a problem you don't understand, and then finally as the time ticks on and the allotted time and you've answered every other question, you finally I know you know what I'm talking. You finally get that piece where you go, I just gotta like give my best educated shot, and then whatever happens, happens. Maybe I get an A, maybe I get a D. It just is what it is, right? And that's kind of how I look at everything.
Never give up.
No, but I'm not gonna lose my hair over it. I'm gonna be like, I gotta put my best foot forward, do what I can do.
If you know you've done your best, you can live with defeat.
Exactly. No, yeah, you come to peace with it. Yeah. When I left taking the when I left the
I'm constantly, maybe I should have done this or that. What could I have done that I didn't do?
yeah.
The answer is I did everything that I could.
When I left the office where I took the MCAT in summer 2013,
Yeah.
I was at total like I left there just I don't think my heart rate was a beat over normal. I was so at peace because I had been studying since the previous fall. Like I had put so many hours into it that I was like, I might have aced that, I might have failed it, but I was like, there is truly nothing I could have done.
More you can do.
Yeah, I didn't go to a single football game my senior year. All I did was study.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm at peace. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how I approach this. I'm like, I've given it my all, man. It doesn't work. Like this is clearly what I was not meant to do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All
Doc,
right.
let's wrap this one up. I'll shoot an email to Hirschhorn, and we can put together an episode.
That'd be
And,
good.
yeah,
It should be
and-
interesting. He
yeah,
is one of my heroes.
yeah. He's a cool guy. He's a cool guy. Yeah, he came on here a lot, 2021, 2022. I think I had him on 10 or 11 times. Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Yeah.
He'd always put up with my ramble. Anyone that can survive an episode with me, like they're a cool guy. If you can not get put off by like the language,
Yeah.
then I think you're you're a cool enough person.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, buddy. Shall we shut her down?
We will. The takeaway from this episode, guys, is go drug your local squirrels. That's all I've got. Go drug small animals. That's the only thing you have in this world.
They really like this Red
Of
Bull.
course they do. Of course, who doesn't? I do. So, why wouldn't they? They're already fucking crazy. Why would they not?
It
like
really
them?
is funny to watch them afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, give it to a grizzly bear next. See what happens. You should watch the movie Cocaine Bear.
No, no, I'm not gonna get trapped into that.
Oh, dude, it's like an hour and a half. I watched it with my little brother. It's a
No,
fun,
that's
stupid
like
movie.
Sharknado 4.
No, it's great. It's hilarious.
No.
It's a turn your brain off. Watch it for 90 minutes. It's great. Cocaine Bear. It's fantastic. We'll wrap this up. Dr. Hatfill, thank you so much for your time, sir. Guys, go in the description, go grab his book, and yeah, I know we'll touch base. Well, I'll shoot here for an email, and then obviously we'll touch base and do another episode when your next book comes out.
All right, Tommy. It's always good to see you and chat with you.
You too, Doctor. Thank you so much for your time. Always fun. Always a good
Always
time.
fun.
Yes, sir. It is. It's a blast. We're gonna
Okay,
finish
brother.
this. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Hatfill. Guys, please go support the good doctor. Please go grab his book. I'll email Hirschhorn. And till next time. Thank you so much, Dr. Hatfill. Guys,
Yes, sir.
thank you for watching. God